Nobody touches the ball. 19 seconds into the shot clock. She brings it up. They're down 9. She brings it up and jacks open a 3. You can't do that with professional players out there. You can't do that with bucket getters like Kelsey Mitchell out there. This is what frustrates.
With 19 seconds still left on the shot clock, nobody else has even touched the ball. The team is down by 9 points, and she pulls up for an open 3 from the logo without hesitation. That's not superstar basketball. That's selfish basketball, according to many frustrated critics. And what you just witnessed is the exact moment that perfectly explains why the Indiana Fever remains stuck in mediocrity despite having the most popular player in women's basketball history on their roster. Because Caitlin Clark has a problem that almost nobody wants to openly discuss. She might be uncoachable. What happened in that third quarter was absolutely painful to watch, and honestly, there was simply no excuse for it.
It was disgusting. There's no excuse for it. I said it time and time. Some of these passes are unnecessary. It was a bad third quarter in terms of the turnovers after coming out, and she was on her way to another 30-point double-double. She started off hot again, was on another heater, and things just turned upside down.
Just look at Morris's expression in that moment. That's the face of someone who's watched the same frustrating pattern unfold game after game, and it seems he's finally run out of patience with the endless excuses. Because what actually happened in that third quarter against Connecticut was impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark was on track for another 30-point double-double, coming out red hot, knocking down shots from all over the floor, creating opportunities, and doing exactly what elite players are expected to do. But then the third quarter arrived, and everything suddenly unraveled. 7 turnovers, careless passes, unnecessary risks, and questionable shots with 19 seconds still left on the shot clock. And perhaps the most revealing part of all was seeing her teammates standing by and watching it happen, seemingly unable to say anything because of the influence and status she holds within the organization.
And Caitlin Clark are just as bad of defenders. Kelsey Mitchell don't guard nobody. People are driving right by her. Kelsey Mitchell, you said, oh, you can't take shots like this with a bucket getter like Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell didn't score a single basket the whole second half. She was awful in the game. But you know what the truth is, Jason? No one cared what Kelsey Mitchell was doing before Caitlin Clark. And they still don't care when she don't play defense, when she jacks up shots. I have cut up film on YouTube of Kelsey Mitchell, nobody else touching the ball. She's dribbling 9-10 times and just jacking up shots. The same way you cut up this.
But now pay close attention to what happens when someone turns that same criticism toward a different teammate. Maurice goes possession by possession, highlighting every defensive breakdown by Kelsey Mitchell, every questionable shot attempt, and every moment she struggled to make an impact during a scoreless second half. And the part that makes this breakdown hit even harder is that many of the points he's making are difficult to dismiss. You could put together the exact same type of lowlight reel for Kelsey Mitchell that Jason Whitlock created for Caitlin Clark. The difference is that nobody was paying much attention to what Kelsey Mitchell was doing before Caitlin arrived, and many still don't pay attention when similar mistakes happen now. That's because there's only one player on that roster carrying the weight of massive expectations, only one player who is expected to completely change the direction of the franchise. And according to her harshest critics, that player is currently playing some of the lowest IQ basketball seen from a WNBA star.
Smith over 30 years ago, and I've been trying to disprove it, and I can't. He said there's only 2 ways to make a turnover. You either got to be careless or selfish. And he's 100% right on that. And I'll tell you something that you missed, Jason. If you're in a coach's locker room, coaches consider, those shots you say she took that was ill-advised with 15 seconds on the clock and nobody touched it and led to transition buckets. We call those shooting turnovers. It's the same thing. There's no if that ball, if you take that long shot and it hits the rim and they're going the other way, there's no defense for it. You're not going to be able to set up your defense.
What Charles pointed out may have been the most important takeaway from this entire conversation, yet many people likely overlooked it completely. He argued that there are really only 2 ways to commit a turnover: careless or selfish. Every turnover Caitlin Clark makes, he says, falls into one of those categories. Then he introduced another concept often discussed in coaching film sessions: shooting turnovers. When a player takes a low percentage shot with 19 seconds still left on the shot clock before anyone else has touched the ball, and it immediately leads to an easy transition basket for the opponent, the result is practically no different from a turnover. You've handed the other team a scoring opportunity because you rushed a decision instead of waiting for a better one. According to this analysis, Caitlin Clark commits these shooting turnovers far too often for someone expected to be the team's floor general and leader. But what makes the entire situation far more complicated is her basketball upbringing. For most of her career, she was encouraged to play exactly this way. At Iowa, she was the offense, the primary decision maker, and the player everything revolved around. If she wanted to launch from 30 feet with plenty of time left on the shot clock, it was welcomed. If she wanted the ball in her hands on every possession, that was her responsibility. She won games that way, shattered records that way, and became the biggest name in women's basketball that way.
That they're just not going to let her play in the WNBA. I mean, Stephanie White is like, no. We're not just going to give you the ball. You're not going to shoot it when you feel like it. You're not going to just dribble up and shoot a logo three and a step back three. We have other people on this team who are really good that needs to touch the basketball. And I think that's where the disconnect comes at, because those shots you saw her take, Jason, well, she took those at Iowa and it was no big deal. You know, she can't, but she didn't have Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston on the court with her. And I'll tell you what, not only Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston, right now, as we sit here today, you know who's shooting the ball better than anybody in the WNBA?
Sophie
Cunningham. So there's weapons out there all over the place. They got to be utilized. She's never had to play that way before. You know, she got very, very careless in that third quarter. And I don't know, you pointed this out, I think.
Then there's the body language that everyone keeps noticing, but very few people are willing to discuss directly. The sideline exchange with Coach Stephanie White, where Caitlin Clark appeared to brush off what was being said, the eye rolls, the shoulder shrugs, and the visible frustration directed toward teammates even during moments when she was making mistakes herself. Charles summed it up perfectly when he compared it to working with someone whose negative body language instantly changes the atmosphere in the room. That's the impression critics believe her teammates are dealing with whenever frustration starts to show. The problem is that if a role player acted that way, a coach could simply send a message by putting them on the bench. But when it's the face of the franchise, the player filling arenas and driving attention across the league, those options become far more complicated. You can't easily bench her, publicly challenge her, or make drastic decisions without triggering a massive reaction. As a result, Stephanie White is left trying to manage the situation under the bright lights, while viewers continue to debate what they're seeing unfold on the court. The comparison to Allen Iverson keeps surfacing, and many believe there are similarities worth discussing. Iverson possessed extraordinary talent, could take over games at any moment, and captivated fans every night, yet his relationship with coaching often became a major storyline. Despite reaching the NBA Finals once, he never captured a championship, and critics often point to the idea that raw talent alone isn't enough at the highest level. Eventually, success requires fitting into a system, accepting coaching, and finding ways to elevate teammates rather than leaving them standing and watching from the sidelines.
But I do notice how you did not respond to. You said you watched the video of all the bad shots that I showed Kelsey Mitchell taking, and Kelsey Mitchell went scoreless the whole second half.
Let me answer that question, Maurice. That Charles, because I want to get Dre and Steve in here, but hey man, there's different expectations for Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell, her role on that team is to get a bucket. Period. End of story. Caitlin Clark's going to do the playmaking, and it doesn't excuse Kelsey Mitchell because she does do some playmaking. But bottom line, they give Kelsey Mitchell the ball to go get a bucket, Kelsey, because that's what you can get to the rim better than anybody in the WNBA. You can create your own mid-range or three-point shot better than anybody in the WNBA.
Draw may have just put his finger on the issue that everyone keeps circling around without fully addressing. The reality is that expectations are the price of greatness, and Caitlin Clark is feeling that pressure every single night, whether she embraces it or not. But the situation becomes even more complicated when you're the unquestioned star of the team. At that level, publicly showing frustration toward teammates is something many believe you simply can't afford to do because it can slowly damage the culture inside the locker room. It creates tension, builds resentment, and leaves players feeling powerless to respond. Think about those moments when Caitlin visibly reacts to a teammate's mistake or appears to dismiss something Stephanie White is trying to communicate. Her teammates see all of it unfold in real time. They know what happened on the court, they understand when mistakes are made, and they hear what the coaching staff is saying. Yet many critics argue they may feel unable to speak up because of Clark's status within the organization. So instead, they keep playing while frustration quietly builds beneath the surface. And according to this viewpoint, the impact doesn't stop there. Officials notice these interactions as well. When a player constantly reacts to calls, makes exaggerated gestures, or spends extended time debating with referees, a reputation can begin to form over time. Referees communicate, they study tendencies, and they often know what to expect before the opening tip. As a result, some believe that players who frequently challenge every call may find it harder to receive the benefit of the doubt in close situations, simply because that's often how human nature works.
Size will allow her to do. Kelsey Mitchell's not perfect, but she's not the point guard. She's not the face of the league. She's not the most influential player on that team. So I got higher expectations. And Dre, your reaction to what I showed about Caitlin Clark and my belief, she's uncoachable in the same way that Allen Iverson was uncoachable. And he and Larry Brown went at it, and eventually they reached a compromise, and they had some success. But Allen Iverson never won an NBA title, and we could run into a similar situation with Caitlin Clark unless she's willing to accept some coaching.
So it's commonly said that criticism is the tax you pay for success.
And now we arrive at the comparison that many believe explains the entire situation. If Angel Reese had been on Caitlin Clark's team, critics argue this kind of dysfunction might never have reached this point because Angel has the confidence and personality to challenge anyone, even the biggest star on the roster. The belief is that she would have pulled Caitlin aside the first time the negative body language appeared and made it clear that no player is bigger than the team. That's the type of leadership presence some feel has been missing. Caitlin never played under coaches like Gino Orima at UConn, where those habits might have been addressed immediately, or Dawn Staley at South Carolina, where team culture is often considered the foundation of everything. Instead, she played at Iowa, where she was the centerpiece of the entire program. Now she's in Indiana on a roster many critics view as imperfectly constructed, with a coaching staff trying to establish authority and teammates who may not feel comfortable challenging the franchise player. That's why the Allen Iverson comparison keeps resurfacing. What made that situation work for as long as it did wasn't just Larry Brown and Iverson finding common ground. It also required strong organizational leadership stepping in and demanding compromise from both sides. The message was simple. The star wasn't going anywhere, the coach wasn't going anywhere, and both had to find a way to coexist. For a time, it worked well enough to reach the finals, but in the end, many point out that compromise alone wasn't enough to deliver a championship.
Staff, the Indiana Fever, there are a lot of people in the organization that I don't know, they're hiding in a cave somewhere. Amber Cox assembled a horrible roster. There's a lot of people that are not answering to the call for what they've done. They've dropped the ball. It's a toxic work environment. I mean, you got a head coach who wanted to debut her brand new custom-made Stephanie White sneakers on the same day as Caitlin Clark big sneaker reveal with Nike. It is nasty. It's ridiculous. They either got to blow it up and Stephanie White and some of the players are gone and the entire front office, or just trade Caitlin Clark. This relationship is beyond repair. It's not fixable.
Now take a closer look at that defensive possession. It's the third quarter. The game is still within reach, and Caitlin Clark is standing several feet away from her assignment, allowing an uncontested three-point attempt without a strong closeout, a raised hand, or any real effort to challenge the shot. Critics argue that this wasn't simply a defensive mistake or a missed rotation. It looked like a player completely disengaged from that side of the floor. Charles reinforced what many assume was already discussed during the team's film sessions before the game. The coaching staff almost certainly emphasized staying tight on shooters, fighting over screens, and limiting open looks from deep. Yet on that possession, Caitlin appeared to ignore those principles entirely, playing as if defense was secondary to everything else. And that's where Morris's larger point comes into focus. Yes, the Indiana Fever have struggled defensively as a team. Yes, Kelsey Mitchell and others have had their share of breakdowns and mistakes. But when you're the point guard, the team leader, and the face of the franchise, your effort becomes the standard everyone else follows. The energy, focus, and commitment you show on defense can influence the entire group, and many critics believe that if the team's biggest star isn't setting that example consistently, it becomes much harder for everyone else to do the same.
In the right environment, if you're going to teach her anything, and they haven't done it, and probably their organization isn't built to do it.
Well, Caitlin Clark, like you said, has played a certain way her whole life. High school, college, her rookie year in the WNBA. And Maurice, if you and Jason are right, then that means she's not coachable. Because all they're trying to do now is say, hey, you can't play that way. You got to play a different way, fix your body language.
Steve may have summed up the entire situation with one simple phrase: she looks like someone who hates her work environment. You can see it in the body language, the frustration, and the visible irritation whenever things don't go according to plan. To many observers, it appears that this frustration is spilling over into every aspect of her game and affecting her interactions with teammates as well. But that raises an uncomfortable question. Is the environment causing the frustration, or is the frustration contributing to the environment itself? From the outside looking in, the Indiana Fever have made significant efforts to build around Caitlin Clark. They already had talented pieces like Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston, added experienced leadership on the coaching staff, and placed the offense firmly in Clark's hands while giving her every opportunity to succeed. That's why some critics struggle to understand why the negative body language and apparent resistance to coaching continue to be such frequent talking points. Steve's comparison to John Stockton and Pistol Pete Maravich also highlights an important basketball principle. The greatest players aren't always chasing spectacular moments. More often, they're mastering the routine plays, executing fundamentals with discipline, precision, and consistency possession after possession. Critics argue that Caitlin sometimes seems determined to turn every possession into a highlight, whether it's a no-look pass, a deep three, or a difficult play that isn't necessary. And at the professional level, many believe sustained success comes from balancing creativity with the simple winning plays that help a team function efficiently.
Hey, Luke, call up the most telling play to me was the pow three-pointer. And just how lazy that defense was. This is unacceptable. Third quarter of a competitive game, you just hit a layup. It's right at Caitlin Clark hits the layup at the rim, and they come back down court. And I find this effort appalling on Pow. Yeah, this is it. Flat-footed, and no real check. That is the play. And what's the score here? 4-point game, and that's your defensive effort. Charles, that looks bad in the film session. No,
you're making my point, Jason. You're making my point. Now, I wasn't in the practice for the Indiana Fever, but I would guarantee you, I'd bet everything that I have that the coaching staff said in the breakdown
What makes this entire situation so intriguing and frustrating at the same time is that many people never expected these criticisms to follow Caitlin Clark into the professional game. The assumption was that she would be highly coachable, an excellent teammate, and a player capable of making smart decisions under pressure. Instead, critics argue that what we're seeing is the result of someone who spent years thriving with the ball in her hands and now finds herself struggling to adjust to an environment where every possession can't revolve around her. Jason's comparison to Kelsey Mitchell is important because it emphasizes the difference between embracing a defined role and trying to control every aspect of the game. Mitchell understands what she's asked to do. She's a scorer, and when she gets the ball, her focus is creating offense and finding ways to put points on the board. She operates within her strengths and doesn't spend time trying to be something she's not. Critics claim Caitlin approaches the game differently. She wants to initiate the offense, make the difficult passes, take the deepest shots, and control every major decision on the floor. And when things don't unfold exactly as expected, the frustration often becomes visible for everyone to see. Those critics argue that leadership is about adapting to teammates rather than expecting teammates to adapt to every preference you have. Another major point raised in this debate is her ongoing interactions with officials. While most players may briefly disagree with a call and move on, critics point to the extended conversations, animated reactions, and visible frustration directed toward referees as something that could eventually shape how she's perceived around the league. Jason's argument about Indiana potentially failing to create the ideal learning environment is perhaps the most controversial point of all, but it's one that continues to generate discussion. The idea is that players are often more receptive to coaching when they feel understood by the people around them. That's why some observers point to the example of Kate Martin, noting that when she was around, Caitlin often appeared more comfortable, more relaxed, and more connected to those around her. Many people point to the locker room dynamic and wonder whether that sense of chemistry wasn't a coincidence at all. But the reality is that no professional franchise can build an entire roster around keeping one player comfortable. The goal is to assemble the best possible team to win games, and if success depends on every detail being tailored to one person's preferences, then critics argue the issue may run deeper than the environment itself. At this point, the situation appears increasingly difficult to fix. Questions about leadership, communication, and organizational alignment continue to grow louder with every passing game. Critics have pointed to everything from public messaging to roster construction as signs that the franchise lacks a unified direction. The front office built a roster that many believe doesn't fit together perfectly. The coaching staff is trying to establish a system that hasn't fully taken hold, and the star player often appears visibly frustrated on the court. Something eventually has to change. Either the organization commits to rebuilding the team around Caitlin Clark's strengths and preferences, or it finds a situation where she can thrive within a different structure altogether. Because right now, critics argue that nobody involved seems completely satisfied. The players look frustrated, the coaching staff appears under pressure, the front office is searching for answers, and fans are left wondering why a player with so much talent hasn't yet found the ideal formula for team success. That's why the Allen Iverson comparison continues to resurface. Iverson was one of the most electrifying talents basketball had ever seen, a perennial all-star who could take over games and fill highlight reels unlike almost anyone else. Yet despite all that brilliance, team success never fully matched the individual talent. The lesson many people take from that comparison is simple: basketball ultimately remains a team game. Talent alone isn't enough. The greatest players learn how to elevate teammates, accept coaching, adapt when necessary, and occasionally sacrifice personal preferences for the bigger goal. Which leaves one final question hanging over this entire discussion: what path will Caitlin Clark choose as her career continues to evolve?